feel like I should have had a spooky themed intro for this episode, but I don't. So we're back. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Master Stefan here with another episode of the Weeaboomers Podcast. Super special spooky Halloween edition. I know my costume isn't that spooky. I'm just a giant egg, but I am joined here by my lovely co-host, as always. You know him, you love him, the one and only Doki Djinn.
I was trying to fix mine real quick. Okay, it's not gonna work as well. But what's up? It's your boy Doki Djinn, with my gloomy bear that's not sitting that well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull that back real quick.
Oh man, it's good to be back. It's been a little bit of a minute.
It is. We've had some stuff we have been taking care of, but I'm not gonna lie, I've missed it. I have been so much stuff I've wanted to talk about.
Yeah, same. I've been you can tell about the beam and the smile I got going on. I've been waiting for this episode. So yeah, originally we had a different episode planned for today, but we were like, oh man, wouldn't it be sick if we did a Halloween themed episode? That would be pretty tight, right? So that's what we're doing for you guys today. We're talking about some horror stuff, some horror stories from maybe some anime cons. I know you're a big con goer. I'm sure you have plenty of horror stories that you could talk about.
I got a horror con, not even a story, a whole weekend.
Oh, God, a whole con. Damn. Okay. Yeah. So today's, me and the boy Dylan here. Before we get started, though, I do want to say, how have you been, Dylan? You know, it's been a minute. You been good, man?
I've been good, man. Work's been busy. Working on buying the house right now. That is a massive stress, but it's going to be well worth it in the end. Definitely when I have a pretty background behind me and everything. But besides that, I mean, work, playing some old games and working on that until that happens. What about you, my guy?
So yeah, it's funny you said pretty background, and my background got blander. You know, I don't have the manga wall behind me with the lights and everything, which I thought looked pretty good. I'm gonna have to.
That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put something behind me to kind of jazz this shot up. But I've been good. Just been busy. Also with work. That's the real horror story. Having to work a 9 to 5. That's the criminal activity right there. See,
yeah, it's like, should be illegal.
Yeah, boogeyman and monsters under the bed is what scares kids. Waking up in the morning to go to work is what scares adults, right? That's the true horror story right there. Oh my God.
I've truly found myself in a situation to where every single morning that I wake up over the last couple months, it's like, do I really need to pay my bills? Because, like, I don't want to go in today. Like, it's becoming like a daily thing to where I have to talk myself out of calling out of work.
Yeah, you got to hype yourself up in the morning. Like, it's not that bad. Yeah. It's not that bad. We can make it, bro. We can make it. Just get out of bed one leg at a time.
Just pray that those 8 hours fly.
Some days are worse than others too, but it ain't that bad. Just think about it this way. Without the job, sure, you might not want to pay your bills, but you got to buy your manga, you got to buy your figures. You got to support the hobby, support the habit. So
yeah, with manga prices going up now.
Started. I literally just started buying manga again like last month, and I'm like, they were not this expensive last time I bought a volume of manga. It's getting insane.
A couple publishers. I think Viz and Shonen Jump, I think, or what went up another $1 or $2 recently, because Barnes & Noble recently had a buy one get 150, and I was like, I'm gonna go utilize this. And honestly, by the time I started checking out, I was like, well, with $9.99 mangas going to $13, like by the time it was all said and done, I feel like I saved like $2.
Yeah.
So not worth it.
Not really worth it when you compare to how much it used to cost back in the day. You used to get like 3 volumes for like $17 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, this isn't from like an official bookstore, and then after this we can move on, but I remember when I bought my Ranma 1/2 collection, because I have the entire like original like Viz print collection. I bought it from like a secondhand store, because they just had all 36 volumes just on the shelf. And I was like, I'm never going to find this anywhere ever again. I'm buying all these right here, right now. But for 36 volumes of manga, I only pay like $200, which is real good considering like all 36 at once compared to, if I were to do that same thing today and buy the manga at full price, That's like $500 I'm looking at right there, something like that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
13 $14 a volume.
also a bit of sake here,
Oh shit! I didn't know we was doing that. I wasn't
Uh,
prepared.
I mean, if you want to go grab something real quick, don't let me stop you.
I'm out right now. I would have went to the store and grabbed some soju if I would have known.
Okay, next time will be like the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. So we'll do like some little drinking parties for those.
Hell yeah!
We'll plan it out. We'll make some little drinks, have some shots. It'll be a good time. Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and start the actual topic of today's episode. So, in the spirit of Halloween and all things creepy and spooky and disturbing, I thought it would be fun, or you thought it would be fun, or we thought it would be fun to talk about some of our favorite horror, disturbing, psychological, like anime and manga, right? Um, I guess we can start with the manga and then go into the anime since you might have more manga than me. Because I'm gonna be real, I haven't read a bunch of horror manga. I've seen a couple of like horror or like I guess darker anime, but not too much on the manga side, unfortunately.
I think you definitely like. I'm pretty sure your manga collection's overall larger than mine. I think I'm at like 300 volumes. I'm pretty sure you're past that. But specifically when it comes to manga, horror is my favorite genre. So I can't really make a recommendation on this because I mean like it's all his work. But like if you're gonna talk about horror and manga,
You have to
first
talk
off you
about
have to give
Junji
credit to
Ito.
Junji Ito.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. Like recently we just got the English Suishi, which was the cover alone was absolutely insane. Like I'm sorry, I think I'm only missing like two or three of his English releases at this point.
Mm.
But I mean, I don't think I've ever read an Ito story that was bad. I don't think it's weird consider horror. Like I understand like that is the genre, but like they're not scary. It's more of just like a disturbing image thing too. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but on
some
the
people that's
scary
terrifying.
side,
Yeah.
yeah, too true. I have seen people be like, uh, what was it? Remina gave them nightmares and stuff. Which
Mm.
I mean, hey, I guess for some people it does. But on the true horror side, I was thinking about throwing out like three of my favorites. And one of them, I forgot who the mangaka is, but it's called Ibitsu. If you've probably seen it before, like on the shelf, it's got like the undead or dead Lolita doll on it, or Lolita dressed girl
Sounds
on it.
familiar.
Yeah. This one is super good. It's definitely more along the lines of scary. Basically, like a guy walks around his neighborhood at night. There's like this haunted demon Lolita that hangs out in the trash, waiting for somebody to like talk to her. Once you engage in conversation, you basically build a bond with her, and she starts following you around and becomes obsessive and possessive. So things get real nasty with that. I don't want to go too much farther, but it was well worth the read, and the images are absolutely insane. Um, I guess this is horror. I don't really find this as too much horror either. I guess people like have their own opinions on what is fully like actual horror or not, but because I think this is also like really cute, but it fits the theme for Halloween. Frank and Fran.
Oh,
Frank and Fran is sick. I love the art style. I love the concept and the idea.
I love Frank and
You've probably
Fran.
read more Frank and Fran than I have, though.
I've read all of Frank and Fran. I've read
Yeah, I have not.
every single chapter. Like Frank and Fran is like so. I actually read Frank and Fran back in like high school, middle school, something like that. Like I randomly came across it. I don't remember how I saw it. Like I was on probably like DeviantArt or something because I used to, back in the day frequent DeviantArt. And I think I like
Yeah.
saw some fan art of like Fran and like her sister, quote unquote, or something like that. And I was like, this looks sick. I gotta read it. And then I just read the whole thing. But yeah, Frank and Fran is sick. I think some of it can count as horror because like it does have a lot of like grotesque imagery in it, right? And like
Yeah.
a lot of body mutilation, and that some people find that pretty terrifying, right? But also, I think it's more of like a horror in the sense of like a commentary kind of horror, right? Because like a lot of the people go to Fran asking her for things, and she kind of like monkey's paw gives them what they want. And it's like always like some weird kind of like to give you. I don't know how far you got, so I don't want to spoil too much. But to give
I'm like
you,
3 volumes in technically because it's an omnibus.
okay, so you might actually you might have already seen the chapter, but like it's one of the earlier chapters. I'm pretty sure. Like for example, just to give the viewers at home an idea, is like there's one chapter where it's like a girl or a guy. I don't remember who, like which one it was. I think it was a girl. She goes to Fran because like Fran is like basically like Dr. Frankenstein's daughter. Like she's basically like a female Frankenstein, but she's like super smart because her dad was like a medical genius, and so she inherited that medical genius from her creator slash dad or whatever. And so he travels the world, but people come to his mansion looking for help or whatever because he can basically do anything with his medical skills. And so she's taken over his job, and she just basically grants people's wishes. And so there was this one girl that came to her and was like, "Hey, I want to be more beautiful because there's this guy I really like, and I want to be seen as more attractive to him, basically." And then Fran's a big sucker for love, like she's a hopeless romantic, which is very funny as well. So she's like, "Of course, I'll do anything I can to help you." So she basically, she basically turns the girl into like a giant caterpillar, and like she like looks like this giant grotesque like human caterpillar hybrid, and she looks disgusting. And then she ends up cocooning herself. And after she cocoons, she kind of comes out of her metamorphosis as a beautiful butterfly, but she's not actually a butterfly. She's just like a really pretty, like, like I guess you could say like stereotypically attractive girl or whatever. And then she's like, "Oh my god, I didn't think that was gonna work. I look so much better. I'm gonna go confess to the guy I like." But the problem is that, and this is might be a spoiler for you, Dylan, so I apologize.
That's all good.
The
I'm
problem
not
is at
worried.
the end of the chapter, she goes to like find a guy that she likes, and they start dating. But I think Fran like used like moth DNA instead of like butterflies or something like that, or something that was like a certain breed of insect that's akin to a butterfly or a moth eats their partners after their metamorphosis period. So she starts dating the guy. Then the last chapter is her like eating him alive because
Holy shit.
she's like part of that insect now. So it gets like really crazy. Like she's like, "Oh, I'm helping this girl fulfill her dreams," and she's making everything worse. And it's a fun read. It's like only like like 100, maybe 200 chapters. It's real short, all things considered. I'll definitely check it out if you like weird, creepy, but also kind of like humorous, like dark humor for sure, kind of stuff. And the art
Yeah,
is
I think
real
it's only
crazy.
9 volumes.
Yeah, the art is real crazy too. Like the artist is real good at drawing some real messed up looking stuff. So it's definitely in that camp.
That's what got me. So like, I actually didn't know Frankenfran was that old. Like it had been around for that long. But when they were announcing the English release for physicals, I saw the cover, and as soon as I saw the cover, I was like, "I'm reading this.
Yeah,
The art is amazing."
it's real good. He's real
And
good.
the fact that you say that though, like the grotesque is like, I guess for me it's weird because like I'm not a horror movie fan. Like I like some very select few, but I'm not like a fan of like your typical like slashers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I think it's like I'm not really big on like gore in
Gotcha. Yeah.
movies, like like extreme gore, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, like over the
But
top.
like but when it comes to horror, like manga, I I've read some pretty like fucked up stuff, and it's never made me feel like weird or like grossed out like when I watch like Rob Zombie's Halloween or something like that,
Gotcha.
because that goes into the next one,
Oh
and I
no.
think this is the greatest horror manga ever made. I probably shouldn't say that because technically we have not been able to read it as intended yet, but because there's no English release, the only translation is technically a fan translation, so we don't even know if it's the 100% accurate wordings. I've heard there's some stuff in there shouldn't be, but Pumpkin Night.
I don't think I've even heard of that. Well, I think I have heard
If
of
you
it,
look
but
it up, you'll know the picture at least. You will know the main character's picture when you
I,
see it.
I feel like I got to do that now just for science. But go ahead, keep talking.
So Pumpkin Night, and like I said, there's been no word of it over the years of it ever getting picked up by a big publisher or getting a real American release. But it's an extreme slasher manga, and they took direct like inspiration from American slashers.
Hmm.
So basically, the main character gets messed with in school, dies, I guess,
Yeah,
comes back and starts taking revenge on everybody. And it's like she's still in like a school uniform, but
yeah.
she has like a big jack-o'-lantern, like gruesome looking helmet on. And she just starts slaughtering everybody. And this happens super, super early on. Like, I want to say within like the first or second chapter. But
Jesus.
one of her first weapons is You know the things that you scrape pumpkin guts out of?
Oh yeah,
Like what? So it's got like the little circle piece with the teeth on it.
yeah.
She like knocks on the door and like uses it to pull somebody's eye out,
Oh my
and
god.
it's like the art is amazing and like it's super like gruesome. And if I was to watch this in like an American slasher film, I'd probably throw up because I have thrown up watching
Oh,
a horror
have you?
movie before. I'm never scared. I just get like my stomach don't like it.
Yeah, it's just like you
So
can't take it.
yeah, but I didn't feel like that with this. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking sick. So
Interesting.
Pumpkin Night is interesting. There is many ways to like it's easily accessible to find the fan translation and read it. And pretty much any American that's read it and can't read Japanese has read the fan translation. It is pretty popular. But I guess one day if we ever get the physical release for it out here or the fully translated, we'll get to know how accurate it was. But man, that is one of my favorite mangas of all time.
Let's see. I was trying to see if I could like pull it up for the people at home to see real quick. I guess I'll just do it in post. I'll just put it up here for the people at home to see because I can't on the fly get it real quick. I wish I could for everybody. Or actually, maybe I can. Oh wait, maybe I can. But yeah, so yeah, it does look pretty gross though. It does look a little gross. Cool. Actually, I got it. Cool.
Yeah, that her main character design. 'Cause I feel like people have seen it on Twitter and stuff. It just gets randomly posted around. I notice a lot. Like over the years, I've seen a lot of people post like random characters on Twitter for like a meme context, and like they don't even actually know what the character's from. But she's definitely been posted around Twitter before, pretty heavily.
Gotcha. Okay, so I was able to get it real quick. So let me just I just went to like some random manga fan translation site. So I don't endorse this site. I just searched. Actually, go back. I'll just go to the Google Images. Nothing crazy should be here, right? Here we go. Perfect. All right, sick. Manga Pumpkin Night. So, bam and bam. Yeah, that's it right there. There
Yep.
you go.
Just by looking at that cover, like holy shit.
Yeah, that looks pretty terrifying. Unironically, something I probably would not want to read. But speaking of things I have read, so once again, obviously, I'm not as hardcore into the slasher manga. I don't even think I've read like a traditional slasher manga, but another horror manga. I guess you could technically classify it as horror, maybe not. So there's a certain artist that I found randomly, and I know he made a show that got an anime, I think, but the manga I read by him, he did not get an anime for it. But I read more of the manga, and it was a manga that was called Magical Girl Apocalypse. And Magical Girl
I haven't.
Apocalypse is a wild manga. It is like your stereotypical like zombie apocalypse story, but instead of it being zombies, it's magical girls, like these super ugly, super like grotesque looking magical girls that kill you in like the worst possible ways. And it's like every character is either your stereotypical like high school, like I'm just trying to survive, or the worst person you've ever seen in your entire life. Like just the absolute salt of the earth. And nothing's good happens to anybody, honestly. It's just a bad time. But the thing that really caught me, which I guess is what made me read it, was like the magical girl designs were just like so gross looking. It was almost like
Yeah.
morbidly like I want to see more, but they're real ugly. Like it's just like the main magical girl that first shows up, because it's like the main character just sitting in class, and then he looks out the window and he just sees a magical girl floating there, and the next thing you know, she blows into the classroom and his entire class is dead, like just blood splattered, mutilated all over the ground. And the catch is though, is that whenever a magical girl kills you, you basically become like a zombie, but like a lesser version of that type of magical girl. And so it's like all these like headless, like arms ripped off corpses start chasing after the main character, and it's like, how do you survive in a world like this? Like a zombie apocalypse is already hard enough. Magical girls though, and they all have different powers. Like the only way for you to know what the magical girl does is for you to fight them, and then if you fight them, you could just die because you don't know what their power is. It's real wild stuff. It's insanely crazy stuff. So that was
I really
definitely
like the
one.
goth art style of it. Like
Oh yeah,
that's what
super
made me
gothic.
interested in it, like originally.
Yeah, I know he made a different manga that I'm pretty sure did get an anime adaptation, but I did not read or watch that manga slash anime, so I cannot tell you what it was. But Magical Girl Apocalypse, I randomly picked up. I never finished the manga. Some of it was kind of weird, especially towards like the middle. But like just like the designs for like some of the characters are like insane. Like looking at this design, if I can like zoom in on it, I don't know if I can. I can't really zoom in on it, but this is the best I can do. I guess it kind of fits the spooky theme. But just like look at this, like this, that's super scary looking. Like if you saw that thing just floating outside your window, you ain't having a good night. You're not having
Yeah,
a good
I
morning.
love this art style so much.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like all of the magical girls that show up are like pretty super unique and like design, and even their abilities are kind of cool. But like I said, the manga does get kind of weird towards like the middle, so I kind of like stopped reading it. But like those first few chapters are like classic like horror manga, like zombie apocalypse style. It's super crazy. So I definitely at least check out the first few chapters if you like magical girls and you like horror, it's right up your alley. It's right up your alley. So what else you got, Dylan? Do you have one more you wanted to talk to the good people about?
Well, I actually forgot about this, and it just happened to be on my desk. But speaking of the goat himself, and arriving just in time for Halloween, I normally am not the one in this household that brings on the Nindos, but man, I was so happy to see this, and I think the reason this was getting put out was because of the Uzumaki anime that at this
Okay. Go
point
ahead and
looks
show it
like
to the
it's
camera
never
one more
gonna.
time. I didn't quite
Oh,
catch that. Okay.
so I think the main purpose of it was like they were trying to push the anime
Yeah.
because like they've been saying the Uzumaki anime was going to come for like 3 years now,
Yeah.
and it looks like it just keeps getting pushed back, which I'm gonna hope is for a good reason. I'm definitely to a point where like if shit gets pushed back, it is when I was younger, I'd be like, man, this is bullshit. Now I'm like, I have to really
Perfect.
understand what a rush product looks like.
You're like
Cool,
perfect. Yes.
because if I
Please
really
push it
care
back
about it,
more.
if you rush it, I'm gonna be pissed, man.
Yeah. If
But
you rush it
let's
in, it
see.
sucks. Especially you're just like, damn, we could have had so much better.
This is another one that I started. Well, yeah, this I'm gonna save the other one for the anime part, but this one I started reading recently, and I have the first couple volumes. But it's the name actually is Slasher Maidens, and it's basically like an all girls academy where like they're trained slashers and stuff like that.
Interesting.
It's really cool. It's like wedged in my shelf. I want to grab, but volume two. What I think volume two is what made me want to read the series originally, because all of them kind of like this. Also, I think took a lot of inspiration from like American slashers. But the cover of volume two, the girl literally looks like she's Freddy Krueger
Oh,
without the
really?
messed up face. She's still got like the pretty like waifu kind of face, but with Freddy like look to her. It's really cool.
Gotcha.
That one's super interesting. Yeah, that one right there at the top, volume two. The orange hair and the hat looks just like
Okay. I
it.
see. I see. Right here, this chick. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So I
sick.
was a big fan of this so far. It's been a really fun read, and I need to finish reading it.
Yeah, I literally have never heard of this before. So that's like I say, you're deaf when it comes to horror manga, or I guess horror adjacent manga is definitely you got me beat there for sure. Because I have never never even heard of this one before.
Every
That's
now and then when I go shopping, like I do kind of like. I mean, like I guess I keep up with a lot of like the releases coming too. Like I'm always like looking at. I have my like planner on what I need to pick up for, like the next 365 days, basically.
mm-hmm.
But I always try to like look around and find like the most obscure stuff. And that was one of the things where as soon as I saw that volume two, I was like, I'm getting this.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it looks pretty sick. I might actually just read it just because the character design just like really cool. Honestly, like
It definitely has some etchy elements to it as well, though.
ah, I see. Classic. I mean, his name is Doki Doki Dijin for a reason. You know, it wouldn't be the same if he was just, if it didn't have it, I'd be shocked, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like to give the warning at first because I
I
recommended it to
appreciate that.
somebody, and then I realized that they weren't like into etchy stuff at all, and I was like, maybe not.
maybe I pushed you too quickly. Maybe, perhaps I was a bit
Got ease
too
you in.
fast. Yeah, there's some people you definitely do have to ease in. I always, if I recommend anything to somebody and I know it has some like stuff in it, I definitely give them a, hey, by the way, just so you know, because some people ain't ready for it, especially a lot of newer anime fans. Because a lot of newer anime fans, they cut a lot of the like etchy and fan service out of like a lot of shows.
Yeah,
Obviously, some shows like Fire Force, they still have it and stuff like that because it's just part of the characters or whatever. But like a lot of like newer stuff like Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Spy Family, blah 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 blah. There's like almost no etchy, which is fine. But because of that, when people go back and watch some of the older shows, they're like, "What the hell is this? What am I getting into?"
yeah. I hate that too because when I see people talk about Fire Force and they're like, "This show's bad because of the fan service from Tamaki," I'm like, "That's actually my favorite character in the show." Uh, fuck you. Fuck your opinion right now. I don't want to hear anything else you got to say.
I mean, Doki Doki Dijin for a reason. All right, so unfortunately, I think I'm basically tapped out on horror manga. Frank and Fran and like I said, Magic Hero Apocalypse are the two I really came into this with. Anything else is just like campy, kind of like whatever. I can't even really think. I'm pretty sure there's another. I mean, I don't know if you want to count like Elfenlied as a horror manga. I wouldn't personally, but
It's counted as a horror anime. Like it has the tag manga and anime wise. Elfenlied is like horror tag, but I don't. It's one of those things where I guess it's like an opinionated thing because
yeah,
I don't see that as horror.
yeah. Because I did read the Elfenlied manga, and the manga is way more messed up than the anime. Believe it or not, and the anime is
Oh, I didn't
already
know that.
yeah, the anime is already kind of messed up, but the manga gets so much wilder. It's actually insane. Like it makes the anime look tame in comparison. But with that being said, I still wouldn't say it's scary. I wouldn't classify it as horror personally. I could see the argument for it, but I myself would not say that Elfen Light is horror. I would say it has some mess up stuff in it for sure, but I
Kind of
wouldn't
like
say that's
another, I
horror.
guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could see where another is closer to horror because it does have that kind of like almost like Final Destination-y vibe
Yeah, the
surrounding it.
gruesomeness of it. But I guess that's the part where I don't really consider that like just gruesome
Yeah,
aspects. I don't really make can see how that makes it horror, but I guess any they have to like tag it like that basically.
yeah. So
Because
I
all I think
mean,
about is the umbrella scene when I think of
that's what everybody
another.
thinks of. Yeah, I could see it. So like, I could see gruesomeness being horror, but it all depends on like context to me, right? Like, if you're watching like Attack on Titan and you see someone get eaten by a Titan, that's not really horror to me. Or like if you're watching like a shonen anime and somebody gets cut in half, that's not really horror to me. But if somebody gets cut in half in a like high tension, high stress, anxiety inducing way, like you see it's coming and you're hoping they avoid it and the inevitable happens, that can be horror because like the anxiety, the anticipation, the build up. And I don't really get that from Elfen Lied. Outside of like maybe like one or two scenes where you're like, please don't let this happen.
You know,
Um,
now that you say that, because I've heard people put up the argument of Attack on Titan being in horror, and I'm about to. I wonder if it has the tag.
I can see season one being horror, but anything past that, there's no. I don't think it's horror anymore.
Yeah,
But I can see like
that's
the
silly.
first half of season one being considered horror, just because of like all of the tension of the Titans and most people not being ready to fight them. I can see that. I can see that argument. But anything after the like the Annie fight, I don't think anything after that is horror, personally.
Okay, no, it doesn't have the tag. For genre tags, it just says action, award-winning drama, suspense, and in themes, it has gore.
Gore, yeah. See, gore does not always equal horror. Sometimes it does, but not always. So, because I'm tapping out of horror manga, let's move on to horror anime, right? So, I'm gonna start off with one of my favorite animes, like just one of my favorites. I just like this show a lot, unironically. But Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, aka When They Cry. I think Higurashi is not just a really good horror anime, but it's just a good anime in general. Like I think you should just watch it personally. Like I think it's good. Um, I'm not even gonna like spoil much. Just go watch the show. Um, so, and I think Higurashi does a good job in the horror department because it does a really good job of building like tension and like anxiety and like just like unease, right? Because on the surface, Higurashi for the most part seems like initially like a generic slice of life moe blob anime, but then you just get hit with all this like random like uncomfortable things that just happen throughout the show. Characters say weird things, characters do weird things, and it just makes you feel real uncomfortable. And then next thing you know, someone's dying in a very brutal way usually. And the brutality of it is not what makes it scary. It's all the build up to it. The brutality is just like the I guess you could say like the bloody icing on the cake that just kind of like sets it home like, the show's kind of messed up. But yeah, Higurashi.
It's funny because it also has like a cute art style. To be honest,
Yeah, it is
like the main characters are cute, like they're cutesy, like school, like almost like a magical schoolgirl look.
Yeah, like it's literally like if you started watching Higurashi, I can't really say that because like the opening scene of Higurashi, because I think they knew that if they just started the anime without any context, people would drop it. So the opening scene of Higurashi in the very first episode of the very first season is you see a flashback or like a flash forward. You don't really know what it is. You see a scene of a guy brutally beating two people to death with a baseball bat. You hear the gross squelches of the bat hitting their flesh and their bones. You see the blood splatter all over the room. Then it like pans up to him with blood all over his face with like crazy eyes. And then it cuts to happy school day time. Like, yeah, we're just all having fun. We're all at school having a good time. So it's like, and they don't retouch that scene with the baseball bat till 5 episodes later. So you're just like,
what the fuck was going on?
Exactly. What kind of show am I watching? And I think that was done on purpose just so people wouldn't drop the show, because literally the entire first episode, besides that scene, is like a generic slice of life anime. They say like one or two things to kind of throw you off, where it's just like, oh, this anime is kind of cute. Wait, what did he just say? Did he just say that people were missing? Did he say that there were like these string of deaths that happened every year in this small town? What? And then they just go back to, oh yeah, we're at school having a good time. It almost like throws you for a loop. It's very good. If you've never watched it, I highly recommend it. Both season 1 and season 2, I think, is like, well, like, so there's technically more than 2 seasons, but the main story is Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, and then Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai, which is season 2. It's just season 2. 50 episodes altogether, because season 1 is 25, season 2 is 25. 50 episodes, really good story, really good characterization, and some really memorable scenes. Like, some people will never forget the fingernail scene. Some people will never forget the butcher knife scene. If you know, you know. And that's all
I didn't get that far. I've only watched a couple episodes, but I don't even think I saw the fingernail scene. But God, now I was, as you're saying it, I was like, I'm gonna go back and like finish it.
Yeah.
But fingernails, that's like the biggest thing. Like that might be the only thing that even in an anime or a manga actually gets to me. Like even when they did it in Kakigori, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
the girls
fingernails definitely
nails.
do mess people. I had a friend. You might know him, but it's a friend of mine that used to play fighting games with me. And one day we were in a car ride coming back from a tournament. And like basically, so me and another friend in the car knew Higurashi, and we were talking about it. And my other friends had never seen it before. And so we're just like, oh yeah, man, that fingernail scene was so messed up. And the other friend is in the corner, like, because I'm in the back seat, he's in the back seat with me. He's like, did you say fingernails? He's like, no, bro, I can't do that. I got a weird thing about fingernails, bro. Like he starts like freaking out. And so my friend in the front's like, oh yeah, you got to see it. So he pulls up the scene on YouTube and shows it to him.
No,
and he's like in the corner like this, watching it in the backseat of the car. Like, oh my God, like what is, oh. And like he was a smoker at the time too. So he was like, I need a cigarette. Where's my lighter? Like he's freaking out. He's sweating. He's like dripping sweat. Like, I can't do it. He's like, I play guitar, man. I can't handle looking at fingernail scenes. He was dying.
Dude, I hate when people do that specifically, because then I'm going to be like, look, keep trying to force me to watch it, but when I puke in your back seat, I'm not like, that's on you.
You know, fair. I respect it. He wasn't driving though either. So I mean, and then so Higurashi, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, this picture right here is like one of the most iconic. This one up here at the top, one of the most iconic pictures in all of Higurashi. This was a meme back in the early like 2000s, believe it or not. People used to post this picture, and it was like, you can't spell slaughter without laughter. It was like a classic. Classic
And then
meme.
you look to the picture right to the left of it, and it's just like, oh, look at these cute little
Oh yeah,
schoolgirls kind of
it's just
thing.
like, oh, look how cute. Look at
Look at
that.
this
Oh,
cute family,
everyone's having
man.
such a great time. Look at that. Look at all this stuff. And then you see this, and you're like, what the hell is going on, right? Yeah, watch Higurashi. It's a good time. It's very, very off-putting. I would highly recommend. Season one, I can understand it's kind of rough to get through because it's like the way they set it up, because it's based on a visual novel. And in the visual novel, they had question arcs and answer arcs. So the way the anime works is that season one is the first half of the season is just a bunch of question arcs where they just set up a premise without any resolution. So you're just confused. And then the second half is all the answer arcs where they go back and show you the other side of what happened so you can actually understand what was going on in the background to cause those events to unfold. And then season two expands on that because it finally like drops the full weight of what's happening and you understand the actual plot and you're like, oh, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're fighting against. And that's why it all comes together. So I'll stop talking. I can talk about Higurashi all day because this is a very good show. But anyway.
No, man, you convinced me to go back and finish it.
Yeah, I actually recently rewatched it too because they did a remake recently. They had I say they did a remake. They announced like a new, every anime is getting like an HD updated remake nowadays, right? So they actually 2 or like 1.5 years ago, actually it was literally a year ago, like this month actually, because I remember they started airing the new season. And so I was like, oh, my wife's never seen Higurashi before. We should watch the new season together. Because for me, it'll be like a fun little rewatch. And for her, it'll be like a very messed up first watch. Hashtag great husband, right? And so we started watching the remake. And in episode 1, I felt something was off. And I was like, we got to stop. We can't continue watching this. We have to go back and watch the original. And she was like, what? Why? And I was like, this is not a remake. Trust me. We got to go back and watch the original. I can tell. Because episode 1, the vibes are off. And so I made her rewatch the entire Higurashi. I watched it with her, of course, because I wasn't going to let her do that by herself. But we rewatched all of the original Higurashi, and it surprisingly held up way better than I thought it would. I was expecting it to be like not as good, especially because the anime is kind of old. At least the original season is, because it came out in like early 2010s or something like that. Or maybe it was like late
2006.
Oh yeah, never mind. It was in 2000s. Yeah. So I wasn't expecting it to hold up that well, but it held up way better than I thought it did. Obviously, some parts were a bit campy or a bit slow because of pacing of older anime, but overall, I thought it was a very good rewatch. Actually,
I actually missed that about older anime, though. I'm going to be honest.
the kind of the campiness about it all.
Yeah, definitely the fact that everything nowadays is like 13 episode seasons.
Oh,
and I'm so sick of 12, 13 episode seasons.
He's like, I want some meat. I want to be invested.
I feel like everything that I've been excited to watch over the last like 6, 7 seasons is like, by the time, outside of like a few things, by the times I'm like super, super invested, it's like, okay, season's over. I'm like, what the fuck? It just started. I was like, what are you doing? And then I realized it was the mouth.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's my first anime I'll talk about. I'll let you move on to yours because I don't want to hog up all of your time.
I think, if I'm correct, this came out in around October last year. I think it's been about a year now. Let's see. It just says 2021. I'm pretty sure this was in October. But so this is a weird thing too of like, is it considered horror? But because it's actually also super cute and wholesome, and at one point made me fucking cry, of sadness. But did you? I don't remember if I had asked you before, but did you watch or read Miroku-chan?
No, is that the one where the girl can see ghosts?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I've actually started reading the manga for that. I forgot that was gonna be my third manga, but I forgot. I started reading the manga for that, but I didn't get very far.
It's really good. I just started. It was one of like typically if I watch the anime first, or like there's an anime coming out at the same time as the manga, kind of like Go Go Loser Rangers is right now.
Yeah,
I'll typically wait for the anime before I start investing the money in the manga. But there is situations to where like if I love the show so much, I will go buy the whole manga. Like My Dress Up Darling, I had to go do it for My Dress Up Darling. Well, Maruka-chan was one of the ones for us that was like that, because I was like, oh my god, this was so amazing. I was sad that it wasn't longer, and then I think I have like the first 2 volumes, and they just released an anthology, so I bought the
Mm.
anthology too. But I love that series. It was like it has like your like spook because she sees ghosts, and they're some of them look a little crazy, and it's craziness in it, but it's also like cute and like wholesome at the same time. So I don't know how far you got. It doesn't sound like you got super far, and I don't know how it translated to the manga.
Yeah.
But there's one scene that got me in the anime where I was like, I was
Yeah. I didn't get
done.
anything. I didn't get to anything emotional. So
Okay, then no, yeah.
I think
But I'm happy you're reading it because you're gonna like it.
yeah, I might go back and watch. So I actually meant to go watch the anime too, because I haven't read the manga in a hot minute. But like when I saw they were making an anime of it, I was like, oh cool, I'll watch the anime just to see how it goes because I thought it was a really fun read. But I only think I got like maybe like 7 or 8 chapters. Like I did not get far at all. Like I think maybe one volume of it is about what I read. Maybe 2. I have to go back and see.
Yeah, it's only 12 episodes. I'm actually not even sure if the manga goes past it. But I mean, like to give an example on how it was rated, on Mile, it's got 472,000 people rated it, and it's holding up as a 1 year old over 400,000 people rating it at 7.41, which I don't think in like our current standards, I don't think that's bad at all.
Yeah, that's respectable.
I
Honestly.
gave it higher than that. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah, that's
but
respectable. And you can't always trust MAL ratings, right? I
yeah,
I recently made a MAL finally for the first time in forever, and I was reading some of my anime, and I'm like, what do y'all mean this is only a 6 to you? This is at least an 8 or 9. Like y'all's trash.
yeah. I got some interesting viewpoints on that because when I was like recreating mine and updating mine, I was like, it was like average score 5.9. I was like, that's fucking crazy. It's a 9 for me.
I'm gonna say it here and now. Just current anime fans are trash. That's all that means. Because they
I
they
100%
just
agree.
got bad opinions. It is what it is.
Facts.
Don't hate them. Don't shoot the messenger, bro. Don't shoot the messenger, baby.
I don't know if it's just a lack of like going back and seeing shit or like or experiencing some of the masterpieces as they were releasing. Like I was talking to somebody not that long ago that we were talking about our favorite anime movies, and they were like, "Oh, I went back and I finally watched Akira and Perfect Blue for the first time." I was like, "Fuck yeah! How'd you like them?" And they were like, "I think it was kind of ass. I don't really understand like why people hype it up." And I was like, "Never again. Not interested in anything else you ever going to say. I'm never going to actually talk to you about this again."
So
Like,
that actually reminds me of an interaction I had at my last job, where I was a trainer at my last job, so I met a lot of people, and I'll never forget there was this kid in one of my training classes, and he was like a younger guy. He was like maybe like 19, 20, maybe 18 even. I don't know how old he was. He was in that age. So no younger than 18, no older than 20 for sure, right? And we were talking about anime one day randomly, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, man, I just can't watch anything that was animated before like 2015." I said, "What? What do you mean? There's so many good anime that animation style still holds up today that came out like the 90s, let alone the early 2000s. What do you mean you can't watch them?" He was like, "Yeah, just the animation, the art style is just not good enough. You know, it's like if it's not Demon Slayer or Jujutsu Kaisen, what are we doing?" I'm like, there's no
that's
way.
fucking
There's no
crazy,
way. I was
bro.
like, what about Dragon Ball Z, right? He was like, oh, Dragon Ball Z is an exception. I was like, what do you mean it's an exception? Like, that arguably has worse animation than some of the other shows airing at the same time.
Yes. I mean, I personally, for me, 90s animation is still my favorite era of animation to this date. But I mean, like, saying like I'm not watching anything pre 2015 is wild because I think overall, as like a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
2010 might have been one of, in my opinion at least, obviously it's opinionated, 2010 might have been one of the greatest years for fucking releases.
Mm-hmm. You know, that blew my mind, honestly. I was like, your opinions are no longer valid for the rest of this class, right? Like, you get out of here, child. Insane. Maybe that's just a boomer in me. I don't know. Because I've even heard that
It
sentiment
is.
from like other people that are like older but newer anime fans that have been like, yeah, I just can't go back and watch older anime. It's just something about the animation just doesn't do it for me. I'm like,
This shit
what
can't hold up to My Hero.
what in the TikTok brain is wrong with you, bro? Like, what is going on? Okay, anyway, we're getting off topic. This is a Halloween
I'm
episode.
sorry.
The real scary thing is new anime fans. That's what's really
Yeah,
terrifying.
that's the most terrifying thing that we can speak about through this whole entire podcast, to be honest.
Honestly. Oh God. Okay, so you were talking about Miriko-chan, is what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Miriko-chan. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch the anime because I did like the manga a lot when I was reading it, and I do want to see the rest of it. But so my next anime that I wanted to talk about, uh, unfortunately, it kind of falls into like the same lane as Higurashi, but not to the same degree. Because it's one of those I really like whenever an anime can like surprise you, subvert your expectations. And I think episode one of this anime does that so perfectly. But I almost don't want to talk about it because I feel like if you have no context, the first episode is very, very good, right? Like it's extremely good. So before I even explain anything, have you seen and or heard of an anime called Gakko Garashi, aka School Live?
School Alive.
Yeah, School Alive. Yeah.
I added it to my watch list a while. I feel like a while ago, and I
Hmm.
never got to it. I didn't even realize that when I was looking into it, when I was like adding some new stuff, I didn't even realize that was a horror.
Yeah, that's the point. That's
Okay.
exactly the point. Okay, so I'm gonna say this to anybody watching: if you don't want to be spoiled, just skip ahead. I'll put a timestamp in the video just for you. If you want to go into the first episode completely blind and then come back to this episode and listen to what I gotta say, I implore you to do that. That's the correct way to watch the show. I also want to tell you because I want you to have the same experience. I want you to go into it blind, honestly. So I kind of don't want to talk about it if I'm being honest. But at the
Okay,
very
I'm gonna close this because I actually opened up the synopsis for it, and I'm like, as soon as you said that, I
yeah.
exited out of the
So
synopsis.
I'm actually not even going to talk about it. So if you clicked away, don't worry about it. You can stay. I'm not even going to talk about it. Just go watch episode one of Gakko Garashi, aka School Alive. Watch the first episode. Come back to me and give me your honest reaction in the comments down below. And you just tell me, text me or whatever, call me. But I think it's a very good episode one because of how hard it plays you for watching the episode. Like it plays you pretty hard.
I'm gonna make Sarah watch it with me because we're kind of doing this thing now in October, to where like every night we're kind of like picking like a scary kind of thing, but it doesn't have to just be like a horror movie.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to
Yeah.
be one of my things that I make her watch. I mean, she likes a lot of horror manga. I mean, horror anime as well. So I think she
Hmm.
might actually be with it.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. I'm not going to spoil anything anymore. All I will say is that it is technically horror, but more so your anxiety levels will be through the roof. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. And whenever you watch episode one, we can come back and talk a little bit more about it. Just let me know. Just let me know. But yeah, Gakko Garashi, aka School Alive. Gakko Garashi is the English or the Japanese name. School Alive is the English name. There's an English dub. There's a Japanese dub. Pick your favorite. Go check it out. That's all I'm
I'm
gonna say.
imagining like Richard in the background, like as we're talking about like our horrors, and he's like, I got one liar, liar. That was horror because it was
Yeah.
horrible watching it.
Yo, liar,
That shit was
liar,
trash.
scarred me for life. That was psychological trauma and horror. I wish I never saw that show in my entire life. Yeah,
I still need to go back and watch all of it just so I can
yeah,
spite him if
same.
it's actually good.
I still haven't seen it either. Shout outs to Degen God, aka Premium Tax, aka Richard, aka host of Treading the Path of Heaven podcast, who was a guest on our last episode. What a character. What a guy. Oh,
I
okay.
feel like you probably seen this as well. Oh wait, did you have one you want to replace School Live with since you didn't want to get into it too
No, you
deep?
can go to yours. I'll sit on my last one. I'll sit on my last one.
This one is strange. I guess I have one more I definitely want to talk to about after this, but and typically I don't even think I would bring this up, but I think I've learned to appreciate shit. Why can't I not think of the word right now? The animation style everybody hates, and so did I until recently. CGI.
Mm,
So in 2016, and I never even watched part two, but I did watch all of part one. Do you remember Ajin?
I do because I started reading the manga for that as well.
I heard the
Actually,
manga is absolutely amazing. I don't
from what I
know how
read of the
accurate that
manga, I
is.
never finished it. From what I read of the manga, it was very good. I never watched the anime though.
The anime, like I in 2016 when it first came out, and I watched it. I think I wasn't giving it a fair enough shot because of how CGI animation was still kind of like that's when it was like starting to like get really popular or like become more used.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks fucking terrible. But like thinking back on it, I wish I would have gave it a better shot because I actually feel like the anime itself was really good. The story was good.
Mm-hmm.
The character designs were good. It was
Yeah.
just the CGI translation put me off of it. But I feel like over the last couple of years, I've gotten a little bit more into CGI animation and like honestly watching Chainsaw Man, I was like nothing in this is bothering me right now, and that was
Yeah.
I watched the amount of people that cried about that,
Yeah. To be
so
fair,
I kind of want to
CGI.
go back and give that a shot.
Yeah. To be fair, CGI animation and anime has gotten a lot better over the last like 5, 6, 7 years. Because early CGI anime were definitely difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Um, like was it like Arpeggio of Blue Steel, which was like one of the
Mhm.
first all CGI anime I saw, and I was like, this is good, but like this animation's very off-putting. You know what I mean?
I
And
guess you could
then
kind of say the same thing about Initial D too, because when the race scenes, like when they're drifting and stuff, is essentially CGI. I
yeah,
think
that's
at
true.
the time it was just 90s CGI,
Yeah,
but they did it pretty. I think they did it better in the 90s than a lot of people are doing it now.
yeah.
Definitely like
I mean, ironically,
Ruby.
yeah, I think you're right. Because like, it's funny enough, some of the best like CGI moments I've seen in anime are from like early 2000s anime that just did it almost as like a bit, but like they committed to the
Yeah.
bit. Like, this is a random example, but I'm a big School Rumble fan. This is the farthest away from horror you can get. But the School Rumble anime had multiple gags where they would just pull out random like full 3D CGI scenes just out of nowhere for no reason and just go back to normal animation like it never happened. And those were some of the funniest scenes just for no reason because it's like it's so random. Like, where did I come from? And then this is once again off topic, but one of the anime that really sold me on CGI anime and why I kind of stopped hating it as much was Land of the Illustrious. That anime had beautiful CGI and it was a very beautiful and very sad story. And apparently the manga right now is wild as hell. I have not read the manga. I only watched the anime, but I saw something from the manga that's because it's still ongoing. That's happening currently, and I'm like, what did this anime turn into? Like, what did the story? What happened to our characters? But yeah, CGI anime, while it can be kind of scary, if you give it a chance, it's pretty good.
I was actually scared you were going to say Ruby because I know you and Glenn liked Ruby at one point. I just don't know if y'all liked the anime or just because of BB Tag.
So the reason why I liked Ruby so much is because I was a big fan of Monty before he passed away. I
Mm.
used to watch like so back. This is once again not Halloween at all, but this is still a podcast. It's our podcast, so I'm gonna say what I want to say.
We do what we want.
Yeah, we do what we want. But back when I was in like middle school, even I don't know if you remember a website called Game Trailers.
Yes.
Yeah, so Game Trailers to me was like YouTube before YouTube. It was just more gaming focused, but people would upload video. That's where Hey Ash, What You Playing got to start. That's where I'm pretty sure Angry Video Game Nerd started posting stuff. I could be wrong on
Yeah.
that one.
I do. I think it's
Um,
so because I remember that very well.
yeah. And so, well, technically, Hey Ash, What You Playing started on Destructoid, but it was adjacent to Game Trailers, whatever. So Monty started uploading animations on there, and at first it was just like little fighting game animations of like him animating himself and his friends fighting each other in like a fighting game style, and then it evolved into 3D animation where he would do like these John Woo-esque fight scenes with like a bunch of like gun kata and like Matrix style like stuff, and then from that he went to like Haloid, which was like Master Chief versus Samus from Metroid, and then eventually he went to Dead Fantasy, which was like his magnum opus to me, because Dead Fantasy was sick because it was Dead or Alive characters fighting Final Fantasy characters, and it was tight as hell. And so I was just following him, like that was like literally like all of my like middle school to like early high school was just like watching Monty videos on repeat and showing them to all my friends. So whenever he got hired by Rooster Teeth and he started doing Red versus Blue, I didn't really care because I wasn't like a big Red versus Blue fan. But when I heard he was making his own original show, which was Ruby, I was like, I'm in there day one. Like I've been following this dude since like 2000. God, how young was I? Like 2007, 2008.
Was it around the time of Red versus Blue?
Yeah, so Monty got hired by Rooster Teeth, and he started animating a lot of the fight scenes and like other things in Red versus Blue around season like 5 or 6 of Red versus Blue, I
Okay.
think.
But say I remember being like an actual kid watching Red versus Blue.
Yeah, so it wasn't like season 1 of Red versus Blue. It was like later seasons of Red versus Blue where they brought him on. But his like early stuff, like I'm trying to see because ironically he was also my introduction to K-pop, which is very funny because he was a big K-pop fan and he would like animate characters like dancing to K-pop and stuff like that. But Dead Fantasy 1, which is the first in the series, which is the first video I saw by him. No, I think the first video I saw by him was Haloid, actually, which was Master Chief versus Samus. But Dead Fantasy 1 came out in 2007, and Haloid came out in... I don't know if I can find that one. Google, don't fail me now. Monty early life, industry work. Haloid also came out in 2007, I think. Yeah, so Haloid came out in January 2007, and then later that year, he released Dead Fantasy. And so ever
I'm
since
so
then,
mad. I didn't know about this sooner.
oh, you didn't?
No, I've never the Dead Fantasy stuff. I've never seen this
You've
before.
never seen Dead Fantasy?
No.
Bro, all right. Honestly, after this episode, I'm willing to record your first reaction to at least the first 2 episodes, at least, because
I'm imagining like Tina fighting Riku and shit now. Like, what the fuck?
Okay. All right. After this episode, we're recording this tonight. It's going on the YouTube channel. It's a video now. Cause you gotta see him, bro. Dead Fantasy to me is like literally my adolescence, and it is the hypest. Cause like when I was a kid, I still play fighting games, right? But like the fighting games I played mostly as a kid were obviously like Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, right? Because that's like what every child played in the 90s. But when I got to like the 2000s, I played Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore for PS2 a bunch. I played Tekken like 4. And obviously, everybody loved Final Fantasy as a kid, right? So that shit to me was primo. So you definitely got to. After this episode, we're recording that. I don't care what you say is happening.
I'm down because now I'm like, as soon as you started talking about it, when the words "Dead or Alive" versus Final Fantasy came out of your mouth, I was like, wait, I love Dead or Alive and I love Final Fantasy. It sounds fucking sick.
And Monty like fight choreography is so good. Anyway. We're getting way off track now. This has become a Monty podcast. But anyway, the moral of the story is I loved Monty work so much. He was making Ruby. I was like, sick. I'm going to watch Ruby because he's animating it and his fight stuff is cool. Season 1 of Ruby was kind of cringe, but the fights were sick. Season 2 of Ruby was kind of cringe, but the fights were even sicker. Season 3 of Ruby was kind of cringe, but the fights were not as good because Monty sadly passed away. That was the sad truth of it. Season 3 also tried to be a bit more serious. They started taking themselves more seriously. Season 4 took it way seriously. And the fights still weren't that great, sadly. They got better towards the end because they finally started picking up on Monty style. But the show kept going even though he passed away, unfortunately. And the way he died...
Is that the most recent one?
No, they're like season 8 now, I think.
Okay, because I remember seeing it recently that they were even like changing the art style.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched Ruby since like season 5, I think. Was the last season I watched. Maybe season 4, but I'm pretty sure it was season 5. But yeah, like his stuff, like his fight choreography, because he was also a big fighting game fan too. Like he was a big Blaze Blue fan. Like he unironically like really liked Blaze Blue. So whenever like Ruby was put into Blaze Blue, technically that was a big deal because like everybody that knew him knew how big of a deal that was, and they were very sad he wasn't alive to see it. Because
I'm about to say I was gonna ask that. You would assume that was kind of like, you think that was like taken into consideration when Arc Systems did it?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they were talking about it before he died, right? Because like, he was like that big of a fan of like fighting games. Like there's actually a couple like fighting game references in his like early animations and things like that. But yeah, very sad. And the way he died sucked too, because he was basically hospitalized for something, and then the hospital gave him some medicine that they didn't know he was allergic to.
Damn.
And he had an allergic reaction and died in the hospital because of the medicine that they gave him, which is the scariest thing of all.
Yeah, that shit's fucked.
But anyway, it's very unfortunate. We got way off track. You're watching Dead Fantasy after this. Moving on, going back to I don't even remember we were talking about 3D anime. And we drifted to Ruby somehow. We're supposed to be talking about horror anime. What is?
Because I Asian, that's what brought up the CGI shit. I
Yeah,
was trying to, basically, the moral where I was going with it was I didn't give it enough credit that it deserved back then. But horror wise, if you don't mind CGI anime, Asian is definitely well worth the watch or read. Because like I said, I haven't read the manga, but I've heard the manga was actually way better than the anime.
yeah. From what I read of the manga, because I didn't finish it, it was very good. I will say that. All right, cool. So last anime for me. It's getting kind of warm in here. Did my AC cut off? I'm wearing this Kigu just for the bit, but it's getting real hot.
Yeah, it's not cool right
It
now.
is not cool anymore. Yeah, it's getting real warm in here. I'm sure the sake didn't help me personally, but anyway, last anime I could think of. So once again, even with manga, I don't watch a lot of horror anime either. Like I said, I think the most like off-putting anime I watched horror-wise was probably Higurashi. Cause they do some really messed up stuff in Higurashi, especially in like later seasons. It gets because I always told people like original Higurashi, it's not that bad gore-wise. Like the worst scene in the show, in my opinion, is the fingernail scene.
Yeah.
And after that, everything else is relatively tame. But the newer Higurashi shows, they kind of went overboard with some of the stuff, I will say. But if I had to pick a third horror anime to recommend to the people at home, um, I can't even think of anything. I had something, but I think all the talk of Ruby and, and Ajin, I lost it. So if you want to go ahead, we'll just come back to me while I recollect my thoughts. If you have another
Um,
one,
just like manga, when it comes to anime, when it comes to horror, like it's also one of my favorite genres in anime as well. Um, I hate that when you say horror anime, people automatically bring their mind to like fucking Tokyo Ghoul. But
I don't think that's horror at all.
yeah, exactly. But like it has become like the face of horror anime, and I hate that. But if I had to pick one more, because like I know I'm not gonna trigger people and get into like my love for Danganronpa, but I think one of my favorite horror animes that does not get enough love and not a lot of people talk about is Angels of Death. So
Mm.
fuck this 6.96 that it has on my anime list. These 651,000 people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Angels of Death is fucking sick. Zach is dope as fuck.
You said, yo, the size of a small country don't know shit. That's
They don't.
insane.
Fuck them. That show is fucking sick. Basically, a girl wants to die. She wakes up in this area and she meets somebody who was going to kill her because it's basically the area is just loaded with serial killers. And the first one she meets is his name's Zach. He's got like bandages around his face. He's a scythe. That might have been part of the reason I started watching it. I love scythe characters for whatever reason. And Zach has all intention on killing her. And Zach's like this really fucked up, deranged serial killer, but she wants to die.
Mm-hmm.
So Zach got his excitement from killing people that were scared, that begged for life, and stuff like that.
Mm.
So when Zach realizes that she does, like he starts getting pissed off. He's like, "Why don't you want to die?" So now instead of just killing her like he was originally charged to do, he's having a whole conversation with her, which leads to them leaving his floor and going to others and interacting with other killers. But he finds her so interesting that now Zach is fighting other serial killers when essentially it's supposed to be like a level kind of thing almost. Like, can you get past this floor, make it to this floor? This floor's got a different serial killer to where Zach is now protecting her and kill, like fighting the other serial killers. But like all of them are deranged as fuck. Zach's deranged as fuck. He's just dope,
Yeah.
a dope character. I've talked to very few people that have watched it, but I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who's actually watched it that didn't like love it. I've never heard somebody be like, "Oh, I watched Angel of Death. That shit sucks."
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
The
Yeah, I hadn't.
animations, though, which studio did it? Because the animation's actually very clean on it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen
JC
that one yet.
Staff.
That sounds pretty
I,
cool.
I I think you would find this one interesting. Like even despite like the horror aspect, 'cause it's got more going on than just that.
Yeah, I mean, so ironically, so like kind of you were saying earlier, I'm not like a big fan of the horror genre in general, like in like movies and other media like that. I don't mind it as much as anime, generally because of how anime can tell its stories to make it more
Yeah,
like visually interesting. Like usually, for example, if I watch a horror movie, it's usually because I'm interested in the mystery behind the horror as opposed to the actual horror itself. So
yeah,
like usually if I watch a horror movie, it's because it's like, oh, there's a mystery to solve, and I'm interested in the crumbs they leave behind to solve the mystery, assuming it's solvable. And I like that same thing in anime as well. But anime usually, because anime usually runs longer than the runtime of a horror movie, they have to put more thought into that aspect of the story.
yeah.
And so as a result, it becomes more immediately interesting to me, right? And so yeah, that does sound very fun. Honestly, it sounds like a fun watch.
So I'm assuming you really like Paranoid Agent and like ghost stories. Then
I do like Paranoid Agent a lot. Yeah, in fact, I was actually going to talk about Paranoid Agent, but I don't know if that really counts as horror per se.
I could see that. Yeah, I think that it would fit more in that place than plenty other things that I'm seeing that are considered horror. To be
Yeah,
quite honest, so
because I can see Paranoid Agent being horror in the fact of like a almost like a nihilistic society kind of sense, whereas like
yeah,
real life is scary and it's easier to dream up this child to kill you than it is to deal with actual life, right? That kind of
yeah.
horror, that kind of metaphysical horror. But I don't know if I would classify Paranoid Agent as just straight up horror. Unfortunately, it is an excellent show, and I should honestly give it a rewatch because I haven't seen it in quite some time.
I was actually thinking about that recently too. That's the reason why it came to my mind.
Yeah, but I don't know if I could, in good conscience, to a horror fan, call Paranoid Agent horror.
It's
Uh,
definitely an amazing, like psychological thriller for sure.
yeah, that
Like
for
I
sure,
think
100%. Yeah, but I don't know if I could straight up just say it's horror. But now I'm starting to blank on another horror anime because I was like, Paranoid Agent, not really horror, I guess. Tokyo Ghoul, definitely not horror. 100% sure that's should not be classified as horror. But I was like, I don't know what else would count as horror. I guess you could say Danganronpa, but I don't really think that's horror either, personally.
See, I guess that's where it like comes into the different categories because I mean everybody is dying a very gruesome death at some point. But I mean it's even I see that some like my anime list specifically like I'm kind of using on like what they're considering their front page horrors. So we
Mm-hmm.
got Tokyo Ghoul, Parasite, another Elfen Lied, High School of the Dead, horror, not horror, doesn't matter what. High School of the
I
Dead's
mean,
got like
Heska
watch High
did
School of the Dead.
technically counts as horror because it is a zombie apocalypse
Yeah,
show, and they do play into the horror tropes. It is also very fan servicey, so it's like horror and horny don't really mix in my opinion. But like you do you.
some people near death
Look,
makes them horny. I don't know, bro.
hey, bro, I'm just saying, bro. If almost dying or being in a near death scenario makes you horny, you do you.
Let's go,
That ain't
gamer.
my thing. But I'm not here to yuck someone's yum. So you do you. I don't agree, but to each their own. That's all I'm gonna say. To each their own.
Dead Man Wonderland.
Yeah, I guess that kind of counts as horror, but like to me,
I
that just
see.
becomes shonen at some
Yeah, it's
point.
just bloody, bloody
Yeah,
shonen.
it's just a very bloody shonen, right? Like, I mean, so I guess an actual anime that you could count as true horror, but I cannot give my full opinion on it because it has been a long time since I've watched it. Would be Monster. Monster's a
Oh,
really good pick.
I don't know
Yeah,
why I didn't think of that one.
yeah, Monster's a very good pick as a horror show because that's like actual like to me very scary scenario. Just like the story. But the reason why I didn't want to bring it up because I haven't seen it in so long that I can't give a good synopsis or opinion on it. But I just remember it being like, man, like this is a crazy story. You know what I mean?
I think there's no way that that didn't age well.
Oh, it definitely had to have aged well, right? Like there's, I'd be surprised if it didn't age well.
Another thing I'm seeing on here that I would consider like actual horror, at least in some way, shape, or form, sadly, is one of the is probably the lowest rated on all of the horror on my anime list, And maybe it's also my love and passion for the games, but Corpse Party.
Yeah, I thought you might have brought up Corpse Party. I never played Corpse Party nor watched the anime, so I didn't have an opinion on it. But I feel like that it was a very popular game series, so I'd have figured that the
Yeah,
anime would convey that somewhat well. You know what I mean?
I enjoyed the anime. I didn't read the manga for it. I do want to read them eventually, but like when I was young, I think the first time I played Course Party, I think was the 3DS release,
Mm,
and I was like, "Yo, this shit's kind of crazy," and it's so weird because like you could feel the psychologicalness coming off of it, but you're looking at like this really like little tiny sprite
yeah.
DS game, but you're still feeling it. So like, yeah, I think I enjoyed the anime. I guess I could see why other people didn't know.
It was probably one of those things, kind of like the first Danganronpa anime, where it's like if you played the game, you could appreciate this anime more, but if
Yeah,
you didn't, it was just like what's going on kind of thing. All right. Well, with that being said, though, I think I'm tapped out on horror anime. There's plenty of horror anime out there, but unfortunately, I'm not the biggest horror anime fan. Also, for some reason, this list is classifying shows like Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress as horror. I wouldn't say that's horror. They're class
yeah.
Devilman Crybaby as horror. It's messed
Doro.
up, but I don't think it's horror. Vampire Knight is literally a shojo. That's not horror. Like, what do you mean? Black Butler is also not horror. Like,
Yo, it may not be horror, but Sebastian was one hell of a butler, bro.
he was one hell of a butler. That is true.
It's
Dead
got Zom
Parade.
100 on here, which is actually like a pure fucking comedy.
Yeah, Zom 100 is like the
Um,
opposite of horror. Dead Parade, while it does tackle some themes, I wouldn't say it's horror. Zombieland Saga is literally an idol show, my guy. It is not horror just because you put zombies in the title. Y'all need to fix what y'all think is scary, for real, for real.
Berserk. Like Berserk is fucked up, but not in a horror
Yeah,
bait
it's
like
definitely
level.
not horror. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, some of these things like I would have never even considered these falling under a horror category.
Okay, so there's one on here that I will talk about that we can move on. So they have Shinsekai Yori on here, right? Which is one of Richard's anime that he talked about last time because he
Yeah,
loves Shinsekai Yori. And while I don't think overall the story is meant to be a horror, I can definitely see there's some horror vibes. Cause the show itself isn't like scary, like there's not like really like slashers or like a monster under the bed, so to speak. But they do a lot of like things to kind of like make you uneasy while you're watching it, and they definitely do a lot of things to like give you anxiety. I almost thought about talking about it earlier because I was like, it might fit in horror, but to me, it was just a little bit too far outside of that box account. But I could definitely see somebody considering it horror because of a lot of these situations. Because there's a lot of moments in the show where it's like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this thing. If we find out, we could get in trouble. But like the trouble is very ambiguous. Like, is it a death penalty kind of trouble, or is it like reprimanding kind of trouble? And then you see other people die, and you're like, are we gonna like? It's very like uneasiness as opposed to like pure horror, I would say. But
yeah,
it definitely could count. Definitely could count. Then they also have Sankare on here, which is literally a romance comedy. So definitely not horror. Yeah,
yeah. I don't really understand the idea of what they threw on that list.
yeah, I don't get it either. But with that being said, there's plenty of horror out there. Go ahead and watch Gakko Garashi. It is very good. A lot of things out there can scare you for sure. But a lot of things in real life can scare you as well. And that's where we're going to move on because I have a question for you, my man Dylan. Because I've been dying to hear this all episode, honestly. I could care less about my experience. I just want to hear what you got to say. What was so bad at this con that you feel like you have a horror story about it? I got to hear it. I got to hear it.
I feel like I told you about at least some of it before,
You might
but
have. You might have. But tell the people.
so Acon, one of the biggest anime conventions in the states, one of the longest running as well. Acon finally does their first con back from COVID because they even after like COVID started to slow down, I think they still took some time off. So I want to say it was 2021, if I remember correctly. So we go there. I'm excited. Akon's always fucking sick. It's always big. It's always hype. Always brings a great crowd and like everything in it's good. And what I didn't notice is that I didn't pay attention to the venue that they switched to. So if I'm correct, Akon, let's see, what was a poppin' year? Akon 2016. Let's see what Akon 2016.
Pop in the year.
Because like once you start getting close to COVID, that's when people like start phasing in and out of if they were at cons or not.
Yeah.
So I want to see what their normal numbers are like. Akon 2016 had 32,639 people.
Right,
Akon, yeah, they skipped 2020 and they skipped 2021, so it was 2022. 2022. What the hell? The number's not here. That's bullshit. All right, they had more than 30,000. It was like the first Akon since COVID. So realistically thinking, when people, we've been stuck inside, we've been waiting for cons to come back. People who actually were probably getting bored with cons after COVID are ready to go back to one.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to see more numbers than normal. So I think it was like 50,000 went in 2022. And the venue that they used was way smaller than the venue they normally use.
Yeah, I did.
So like
that,
we're doing Power and Chainsaw Man as well. So my whole helmet's like sticking out to here. We pull up, hot as hell, wait in the line. The line, even with our badges just to get in, was because of the protocol they were using, was miserable. And then we get inside, and then that's where we're like, oh, what the fuck happened? Because Akon takes up 3 floors. There's well over 40,000 people there. There's only one escalator. Nobody can use the elevator. The elevators were completely shut down, and there's one escalator going up and one escalator going down with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You were literally waiting in a 10-minute line to go up the escalator.
Oh my
and
God.
Then if you wanted to like get off, like say you're on the 2nd floor and you wanted to go back down, because it was a one-way escalator that literally just did this, because they roped escalators off too to keep like traffic control. All it did was call it traffic buildup. If you were on the 2nd floor and wanted to go back down, you actually had to get in line to go up to the 3rd floor to get in line to go back down to the 1st floor. It was absolutely miserable. And then here's where it gets great. So you go into the dealer's room, and I am not joking. I am not exaggerating. It was so the way the dealer's room was set up is that you got your typical like this. There's an aisle. And then you got a vendor on this side, a vendor on that side. They were so packed for space with how many vendors they had in such a small area that the walkway, the aisles, was straight up like if me and one other person my size are standing shoulder to shoulder, we are taking up the whole entire aisle. There is no wiggle room to get through. And on top of that, we're not only are we actually shoulder to shoulder, but you're like face to back of the head. Like trying to walk, like you might as well be. We're literally wobbling around like this. Now the problem that it caused was, since there was only a 2-way, there was no like extra space to move around with. That means if somebody in front of you stops to look at the vendor, if somebody stops to try to buy something, you're literally stuck. It was like traffic jams. You're looking around and you just see hundreds of people that are just standing in place, being like. And then, of course, you got a couple of assholes that are like, "Oh, I'm going to fight through this." But I mean, all you're doing is making it worse when you do that. Like you're literally like fighting through a crowd. It's like Assassin's Creed in that motherfucker, bro.
Squashing to other people and
yes.
stuff like that. Yeah,
you're knocking people shit off the booth. It was fucking terrible. And I basically couldn't cosplay in the dealer's room because once we were in there, and Akon, sadly, like I guess the size, it became more of it was like a MechaCon situation. It was like the dealer's room was taking a lot compared to what like it normally would, and I physically couldn't wear my helmet because I walked in with it and I smacked somebody in the back of the head with the saw blade. Yeah. And I was like, on top of it, I can't see out of it. And I was like, so I physically can't wear this because I can't have 8-inch gap between me and somebody else. So how am I supposed to walk with a big blade on? I just feel like everything was shit. It was expensive that year, and it was not worth it. They got mass complaints about the venue and like how the venue was not suited for the number it brought in, how you should have been more prepared. And it sucks because like I guess I did have fun. I got a lot of friends who cosplay like in the cosplay scene in Texas that I really only get to see at Texas cons.
Yeah.
So like it was fun hanging out with them. But like honestly, the crazy part is like I feel like I go to cons for a different reason than a lot of other people do. A lot of people like to go to cons like party and shit. While I like to do that as well, that's not my main focus. My main focus is actually getting into as many not
Like
booths, panels and shit as possible. Like I'm actually trying to make it to every panel I want to see, and like signatures and guests and stuff. So like I know a lot of people that go just because they want to get drunk and party. Yeah. But the partying was the highlight of this con because it was the only thing that wasn't miserable. Because we were also overpacking the hotels. The hotel that everybody was hanging out in on Saturday night, the lobby had 400 or 500 people in it. So it's 2:00 in the morning. We're like loud as hell. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's pouring like bottles in each other's mouths in the lobby. So finally they were like, look, get out. I'm not going to call the cops or anything, but we need y'all to get the hell out of there. They were like, you see that giant front yard we have in the hotel? That's because it was turf. They were like, go, y'all can have that. Y'all can hang out on the hotel like area. Yeah. Just get out of the lobby. And we were like, all right. And then it was fucking great because everybody's just like spread making out. Circles, pulling up the ice chest, getting in groups. You're talking to people. Everybody's passing drinks around. We already had drinks. It was 2 people we didn't even know walk up to us and they're just smiling. They're like, yo, I know y'all got drinks, but y'all want more? Go grab something. Like it was just a great time. But it just sucks that like there was really no redeeming quality to the con itself outside of the fucking great pictures that my boy Z ended up getting for me and Sarah.
That is unfortunate. That is a true horror story. Going to a con where you have almost zero fun at.
Yeah.
And until you get away from the con, that's pretty tragic. So we are kind of short on time, so I'll kind of piggyback off of yours, to kind of like wrap this segment up. But basically, so my first time ever going to Anime Expo was Anime Expo 2019. And while overall I would say the con was a fun experience, I guess, ? I feel like that there was just so much headache around everything else that it was like, I don't know if I had the heart to go back again immediately because like we pull up kind of similar to you, like it was just so many people, so packed, right? So like for Anime Expo is like a Thursday to Sunday con, like it just goes on for forever. Some people show up on Wednesday and they do some things on Wednesday as like early bird special kind of stuff. We didn't get there till like Friday, right? Because we were just like, oh, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't want to like spend a bunch of money on like hotel and all that. So we'll just, get there Thursday night to the hotel and just enjoy the Friday, Saturday, Sunday at a con instead of like trying to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Keep in mind, they had people showing up to this con since Wednesday, right? So you would think by Friday, everything's all smooth, peachy keen, hunky dory. Tell me why we left our hotel room at like 8 a.m. to go get our badges for the con, and we still waited in like a 2 to 3 hour line out in the hot California sun in the middle of summer because that's just how bad. Like apparently it was even worse the day before because we were like on our way there reading tweets and stuff about people being like, yeah I waited in line for like 6 hours to get my badge, not to even get into the building. And they were apparently like super understaffed that year. Like they had no volunteers like at all. Like people at the bag check were like taking forever, things of that nature. So it was just like we got there and it was like 2 to 3 hours just to get a badge. We get into the building and like everything is like backed up. Like it was real sad because like that was the year that Trigger premiered Promare. They premiered Promare at Anime Expo that year before like it was in theaters officially. And so me and my boys were standing in line to like in the Premiere line, right? Because we wanted to see it. We're like, what's this new Trigger thing they got going on? So we're waiting in the line and we were sitting in line for like an hour and it didn't budge. Like literally did not move. And we were like, this sucks. Let's just go get food, whatever. Who cares anymore, right? So we left. But one of our guys stayed behind because he was like, I just want to try to get in. So we left. we grab some food, we come back to the exact same spot in line that we left because our boy was just sitting there holding our spot for us. We make it to the door. Like literally, they like the people in front of me go inside and I'm the next person to go inside. And as soon as I get to the door, they're like, no more people. We're past capacity. We're booked. We're full. And I was like, we waited like 4 hours in a line. Like, granted, we did like take a food break, so we were technically there for 3 hours. But we waited essentially 4 hours in line to not even get into the building. That's insane, bro. And everything was like that. Like, unless you like planned days in advance and you showed up like 4 or 5 hours before the thing you wanted to do was about to happen, you just didn't get in. Or if you did get in, you waited for like an hour into the thing, and then everything was overpriced, right? Like everything in the venue was overpriced. Like water was like $6, $7, $8. Like, and then there was a bunch of after parties too, but it was like, oh yeah, $20 to get into the after party to pay for like $30 drinks. And it's like, what is going on? So it was not a great time. The best time I had, and I'm not gonna get into it because it's kind of a crazy story. Save that for another time. But the best time I had was on Saturday night, because I'm so used to like going to FGC events where people just stay up all night playing games and stuff, that anytime I go to a con now, like usually like maybe like Friday night I'll like sleep normally, but like by Saturday night or even like Sunday night I get restless. Like I want to go do something because I'm at the con and I feel like I should be doing something. And so Saturday night, all of my friends laid down early because some of them were flying back home on Sunday morning, but my flight didn't leave till like late Sunday night. So I was like just kind of chilling. And I was like, man, I want to go do something, but like, what is there to do at this con? Because like surprisingly, for one of the biggest anime conventions in the US, everything closes mad early, right? Like everything closes like 8 or 9, except for like maybe like the 18 plus or like 21 plus parties. But those go into like maybe midnight, and they're a pain in the ass to get into because you're waiting in like a 2-hour line. So by the time you get into the party's shutting down. Yeah. And so I was like, damn, what do I do? And like apparently all like the cool after parties were either like way away from the venue. You had to like take like a Uber to get there, or there were all these private parties that you had to know people to get into. So it was like, there's nothing for the average person to do. So I'm like walking around the area trying to figure something to do, and I just give up. And I end up going back to my hotel room because I just give up. I'm about to go to sleep at this point. Like, who cares? Like, I quit. I'm just gonna go. And I ran into these drunk people in the lobby, and the night goes a crazy place from there. Like, I'm not gonna get into that story
because we got to talk about this another time because I want to know now.
That's not the horror story part. That's the fun story part, right? The horror story was everything before. That night was crazy. But with that being said, we've kind of gone a little bit over time. We've talked about horror. We've talked about non-horror. We've talked about dead fantasy, which you're definitely going to watch. But I think that about does it for this episode, if I'm being honest. I did have a couple of other stories we could have shared, but that'll turn into another 2-hour episode. And we're trying to keep this short and sweet for the people at home. We have already failed in that task, because we just have so much.
Yeah, we got to circle around to that, because I was about to now I want to say how like our Anime Expo experiences were drastically different. And
really?
There was a 10-year gap between them too, though. Yeah. I went in 2009 for my first time.
Oh, literally a 10-year gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll say.
But now I want to talk about that another time for sure.
All right. Next episode.
Man, that was the best weekend of my life.
Oh, really? Damn. Yes. It was not as good for me. All right, well, we know what we're talking about next time. We're bringing these Anime Expo stories back. All right, with that being said, as always, we appreciate everybody for watching another episode of the Weeaboomers Podcast. Sorry there was a bit of a delay from the last episode, but hopefully this special Halloween episode makes up for it. I promise the next episode will not take as long. With that being said, I've been Master Steph, one of your wonderful hosts here. Yeah, Doki Doki Djin, the good guy over there. Go ahead and follow him. You know, in fact, I'm going to give him the big shout out. You know, go ahead and follow. Look at this beautiful guy. Look at him. Look at him. He's already here. Doki Doki Djin. That's crazy. But yeah, with that being said, I've been Master Stuff. Go watch some anime. Go check out Gakko Garashi. That's my anime recommendation of this episode. Go either watch Higurashi, which is also very good, or go watch Gakko Garashi, or go watch what Miyako-chan. Is that what that other one was?
Miyako-chan, yeah.
Yeah, go watch one of those 3 anime. That is your homework for this Halloween episode. All right. With that being said, we still don't have a proper outro, but we'll figure it out one of these days. Yeah,
you'll see it eventually.
You know, 3rd time's a charm. After this, we'll figure it out. Anyway, with that being said, peace out, happy Halloween, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later.